Greetings. Can everyone hear and see me? Thank you for the bun raves. How is everyone doing today? I am perceived. Oh, sometimes I wonder why I made that emote available to everyone. Because it's so creepy. I'm being watched. Bye. Bye. I'm glad you like it. Well, welcome back to Bun Hell, and also to the house in Fata Morgana. So, on to our 5th venture. We've made it through the first 2 doors, and now we are standing outside the 3rd. In comparison to Chapter 2, I may have mentioned that I have far less content warnings for Chapter 3. Of course, since it's still Fata Morgana, there's gonna be some shady things happening, which I'm sure you will all see shortly. Yes, looking forward to going through, hoping it all goes well. I'll grab my comfortable friend. Nods. How is volume, etc. Oh, hello. Greetings. Welcome to more Gothic Terrors with Bun. Shall we get started? Now, through the door we go. Please, do not let go of my hand. The maid pushed open the door. Colourful balls bounced around atop a long, dark green table. One man, dressed in black and standing by the billiards table, turned toward the door. The room was inundated with eye-watering cigar smoke, causing the departed to squeeze his eyes shut. In we go. 1869. Pig Iron Manor. Goodness. I might dock that a little bit, actually. Is that okay? That era was a rat race of innovation and development. The smoke was so thick you could hardly see more than a few feet ahead of you. I could compare it to a dense morning fog, but that might give the impression of beauty, and there was little of that to be found in this haze. Do you see the silhouettes of several men in the smoky room? The one in the middle, the one looking in your direction, Master, was the present master of the house. Here we have Jacopo, who is an interesting guy. I'll let you all see how interesting he gets. His name was Jacopo, and although he dressed in such fine attire, I sincerely doubt he understood how splendid the furnishings left in the mansion truly were. I am a faithful servant of this house, and I would not, for the life of me, dare speak ill of my master. However, this is a time long past. I imagine God would be so kind as to turn a blind eye to a little bit of honesty. I was not terribly fond of my master back then. He had wavy hair, the color of over-dried tea leaves, a piercing gaze, an arrogant smile, and he wore a hat that made him look rather haughty. He put his trust only in money, renown, and rank. He loved only the iron and steel that had revolutionized so many industries. He had not the slightest bit of love or care for other people. At the very least, that is what I believed at the time. Take a look around the room, Master. Jacopo had remodeled it into a recreation area. A billiards table sat in the center of the room, and the downward-facing lights hanging from the ceiling were special made. The lights shone upon the dark green stand like a cage. Cigars and bourbon-lined glass cases installed in place of bookshelves. The cases were always fully stocked, their contents available to partake of readily. At that particular moment, as he had many times before, Jacopo had invited several friends and acquaintances, and they were entertaining themselves. His wealthy, high-ranking acquaintances had a variety of hair colors, from polished brass to the brown of a baby robin to the color of sunburnt wheat. There was also much greater variation in skin tone compared to the visitors and residents of previous eras. But that was hardly any surprise, for the mansion sat upon land inhabited largely by immigrants, the New World. What's the matter? What are you looking at?
Nothing. I just thought I heard someone say my name.
Ain't no one there unless you're seeing a ghost.
Don't believe in such nonsense.
It's an old house with a long history. Wouldn't be surprised if it had a ghost or two. But if the place is gonna be haunted, I'd take a princess over a bloody broad any day. Princess, huh? And when she showed up, you'd have your way with this ghost lady, am I right? Color me impressed, son. You'd jump her bones and she don't even got any to jump. Come on now, that's hardly fair. Not much you can even do with a ghost.
Oh my god, are you men or children? This is my house, and I'd rather you didn't talk about it like that.
Just the blatherings of a couple of drunks. Pretend you didn't hear nothing.
For the love of God. In any event, whatever happened to that printer you invested in? I haven't heard their name come up in some time. Look, can we please avoid that topic? It's been quite the headache for me.
I thought it'd pay off, but...
It always sounded sketchy to me. I'd recommend you pull out unless you want to find yourself with nothing left but a nice fat pile of debt.
You could have mentioned that beforehand. Ugh, this is killing me. The men's deep voices resonated in the cloudy room. As they imbibed alcohol and puffed on their cigars, they conversed mostly about business and money. Jacopo and the rest of the men were a breed known as investors. You might also call them tacticians. They survived on information attained before anyone else, by making swift decisions and having foresight. Though instead of flesh and bone, their soldiers were made of ink and paper. To an outsider, this meeting might appear to be a congregation of friends, but in reality, they were observing one another, gathering information, and anything else they could use to get ahead. At times, money and information were exchanged directly, and when they were no longer of financial value to one another, their relationship would pop like a bubble and dissipate into nothing. But you know, Jacopo, you can't be sure this railroad you're so passionate about is gonna bear fruit neither. You don't even know if it'll get finished. And even if they do connect the tracks, will it really be in any shape for people to ride? It's a pipe dream, this transcontinental railroad of yours. Jacopo went silent, but I am certain this is what was going through his head.
You're a bunch of damned imbeciles if you can't see that the entire country's put their weight behind this endeavor. This is why you have so much trouble making even a few thousand.
At the time, a great railway was being built across the breadth of the continent. Construction was spearheaded by two large rail companies, in competition for both prestige and a bigger share of this massive national enterprise. The Union Pacific Railroad Company started building from the east, and the Central Pacific Railroad Company from the west. But government bonds alone were not enough to finance the massive undertaking.
By the way, there's been some less than pleasant reports about workers dying on the job for the company you chose, Central Pacific. You mean how they're using explosives to blast through the mountains? Making quite a bang, they are. But if this gets to be much bigger of a fix, they're not going to be able to continue construction. You should at least put your money in the more sure bet of the two, the Union Pacific. It'll cost you to hire replacement workers, and if they keep kicking the bucket, you're gonna have trouble finding more. My goodness. And here I thought you all had spines. You think we're gonna run out of workers just because a few ate it? Huh. There's so many we don't even know what to do with them all. There's not a chance that well will dry up. And if by some chance it does, all we have to do is scoop up a ship full of blacks or yellows. You won't get anywhere if you spend your time worrying about a few measly laborers. This is an endeavor backed by the entire nation. The deaths are honorable, in service of their country. The biggest loss is not of people's lives, but of time. The longer a project takes, the more money it costs, and the less profit we make. What we seek is rapid progress, even if the methods to obtain it are messy or deadly.
The other men in the room chuckled uncomfortably at Jacopo's distasteful choice of words. Do you agree with his way of thinking, Master? Perhaps he does have a point in that great sacrifice is necessary to accomplish great things. And it is true that tragedy often lies in the shadows of the splendor of times long past. Furthermore, the way people see the world changes with the times, so I hesitate to criticize him too severely. Now, as I am sure you have picked up on, he was an investor who had put money into a railroad company. He also possessed several crude oil refineries, riding on the world's second wave of industrial development. The mansion too bustled with life in a way it never had before. Dozens of maids, including me, gardeners, chefs, sculptors, artists. At times we even had writers coming in and out of the house. There was rarely a moment of silence. However, I was not terribly fond of the hustle and bustle personally. But please do not get me wrong. I am hardly opposed to the mansion being cheerful. It was just... how should I put it? The splendor of the time seemed superficial, heartless. It was as though everyone was being rushed along by some unknown invisible force. Part of it was, I expect, caused by the growing divide between those standing at the top and sitting at the bottom. Or perhaps the mansion was simply taking after its master.
There's no time to waste. Everything is resting upon the success of this project. Whatever it takes, I will ensure it happens. I need more money and more power.
Suddenly, a restrained knock on the door stopped his train of thought. From beyond the door came a woman's voice, gentle as a soft spring breeze. Pardon me, I have made some tea. May I offer anyone a cup? When the door opened, In it stood a beautiful woman with pure white hair. It was indeed her. Thank you for the bun stretch and drink water redeems. I will drink water. Guess who? Though she was not the same age and dressed differently, the white-haired girl, whom you saw fall into the hands of misfortune in the era of roses and the era of the beast, was also present in this era of innovation. Furthermore, she was Jacopo's wife.
Tea? I don't recall asking for that. When were you asked to make it?
I wasn't, but I had these leaves with the most wonderful aroma, and I thought you might enjoy.
Shut your trap and know your place. What do you think we have all these maids for? Hey now, no need to treat your lady like that. She was just trying to be courteous. These are my personal affairs. Please keep your comments to yourself.
His friends were unsure how to react, but ultimately, nobody stepped up to stop Jacopo. They merely shrugged, tossing glances at one another. Jacopo stomped over to the white-haired girl. He then grabbed her by the arm and dragged her from the den.
What the hell do you think you're doing? I've told you time and again to stay away from that room unless absolutely necessary.
I'm sorry, but, I made tea and...
Shut up about the tea already! You think we're having tea parties in there like a bunch of prissy nobles?
I'm sorry.
If you really feel so bad, don't go in there in the first place. Get the hell back to your room.
I meant no harm. It's just... I'm your wife. I thought it would be nice if I could do something.
Like I've told you, that's not your job. Don't show yourself in front of the other men. I've nothing else to say to you. Got it. Now scram. Sakes alive. First them, now you. It's driving me up the wall. What is it? I told you to get out of here.
Right. But,
What?
When will you spend time with me next? It has been some time since we last went out together. But we don't even have to go out. Just having dinner together would...
How many times are you gonna make me repeat myself, you worthless tramp? Are those ears only for show? Go back to your goddamn room!
My apologies. Looking utterly downtrodden, the white-haired girl made her departure. Such a piteous sight she was. As he watched her go, Jacopo merely snorted. Just thinking about the way he behaved then angers me. I have little fondness for men who do not treat their spouses with respect. So as you can see, the white-haired girl was in hardly a joyous situation. She was devoted to Jacopo and tried to do whatever she could for him. But he not only brushed her aside, he did so in an insulting, deliberately hurtful manner. They were far from picturesque partners. Do you wonder then, Master, why she married him? The answer to that question will come to light in time. For now, let us follow her. Looking down dejectedly at the undrunken tea, the white-haired girl walked alone down the corridor. Though its calming scent filled the air, there was nobody around to have their heart warmed by it. Nor was there anyone to alleviate her loneliness. Despite being the master's wife, the maids who crossed her path in the halls said nary a word to her. As a matter of fact, "Oh dear, I beg your pardon, madam." "It's fine." One even bumped into her, stifling a laugh as she trotted off. In all likelihood, she had done it intentionally. The poor white-haired girl who had fallen to the floor stared helplessly at the broken cups. The tea she had made for her husband was forming a stain in the carpet. The maid's behavior toward the mistress of the house was absolutely unacceptable. Nonetheless, it was commonplace, all because of the way Jacopo treated her. The more the man of the house acted cruel to her, the less weight her position as his wife held to the servants. Day in and day out, the maids worked busily, offered little opportunity for leisure, so they would naturally have accumulated quite a bit of stress, and she became the target for them to let off the steam. Not directly, but through a more subdued kind of harassment from the shadows. She must have felt quite miserable. I imagine she would have been better off as one of the maids. On the surface and in front of others, they showed respect for her as Jacopo's bride, but behind closed doors, they acted very much the opposite. The disparity between the treatment she received around others, the treatment she was supposed to receive at all times, and the way she was actually treated made the abuse that much worse. And furthermore, as you have seen through the other doors, Master, she was a very reserved young woman. She could neither raise her voice in reprimand nor raise her hand in retaliation. I have to get this cleaned up. She extended her spindly fingers toward the shards of shattered porcelain. But even the broken cup seemed to have no concern to spare for her. Its shattered edge cut her fingertip when she made to pick it up. A trickle of warm red blood ran across her unearthly white skin. As painful a sight as it was, it had a sort of taboo beauty to it. The blood spilling from her finger showed no signs of slowing down. She clenched her hand into a fist, let out a sigh, and went back to collecting the shards of porcelain. But when she did... Madam! What's the matter? Oh, madam, you're bleeding! While all the other maids ignored her, one came running over, shouting to the white-haired girl's side. "We need to get that cleaned and bandaged up." "Oh, you don't need to pick that up. It's not your job, madam." "It's all right, Maria. There's not much to pick up." "It is not at all right. And the rest of you, why are you just standing there? Your boss's wife is on her hands and knees and you're not even lifting a finger to help her? You disgust me." "Maria, it's fine, really." "Oh, madam, if you weren't so timid, this wouldn't happen. You're allowed to yell at them, you know." "It's all right, really. It's my fault." "Anyway, we should get that finger taken care of. Let's get you back to your room, okay?" "But the broken cups and the spill..." "As I said, that's the maid's work. Now, come on, Let's go. Okay.
And the rest of you, get this mess cleaned up.
She roared like the wind in a thunderstorm. The other maids stood there dumbfounded, watching as she and the white-haired girl disappeared down the hall. But they were soon frowning and grumbling to one another. She thinks she can act all high and mighty just because the master is fond of her. The woman's name was Maria, and she was one of the maids. And she was the one person in the mansion the white-haired girl could think of as an ally. Though her husband paid her no mind and the maids made her life miserable, just one person, Maria, treated her with respect and kindness. And I'm sure you can readily imagine just how much of a lifesaver that was for her. I too found myself somewhat relieved that Maria was there for her. Being a servant of this house, I was also one of the maids working there at the time. However, I was unable to involve myself to any great degree in her fate. This meant that there was little I could do to assist her, even in times of pain and unpleasantness. The best I could do was pray that Maria would continue to lead the white-haired girl, or to lend the white-haired girl her hand.
And that does it.
Thank you, Maria. You're always such a big help.
Oh, no. No need to thank me. I just did what any good maid should do.
No one else is in the room, you know.
Oh, right. Then I can drop the act? Man, just can't get used to talking stuffy. I'm out there doing my best, but the head maid's still spouting stuff like, good manner of speaking is improper for a servant. Every single time we meet.
Yeesh, come on, just shove it, would ya?
You're a damn creep.
No, you mustn't speak of her like that.
Sorry. Slip of the tongue. She just kinda gives me the willies, you know? Speaking of, you dropped the stuffy talk too, madam. Kinda awkward if only one of us is acting casual, you know?
This is normal for me. If I attempted to talk like you, I would freeze up out of nervousness. This is my casual.
Fair enough. Guess that's what happens when you're raised well. I like it though. Has a very regal feel to it.
I don't think my upbringing is the only factor.
But, you know, upbringing is important. Worth a whole lot more than money, I'd say.
I suppose. Thank you, Maria. You're always so compassionate.
You betcha. They don't call me the Virgin Mary for nothing. I practically bleed compassion.
You know, that might be true. You very well could be the reincarnation of the Mother of God.
No. You were supposed to laugh at that. It's just embarrassing if you take it seriously.
Alone in the white-haired girl's room, Marie was acting much more friendly and relaxed as they conversed, as opposed to her no-nonsense attitude in the hallway. The two women were, as you can see, quite close. They had crossed over the wall separating master from servant and built a bond of friendship. And at some point, they had begun to speak frankly with one another when no one else was around. Maria was the only person in the mansion around whom the white-haired girl felt comfortable being open. I imagine she very much enjoyed these moments of conversation. You wish to know who the head maid was? My. Are you sure you want to ask me that, master? Some questions are better left unasked. For your own good.
I have to say, madam, you have the prettiest fingers.
Mine are all rough and dry and nasty. You think so? Mine haven't the slightest bit of muscle. They're about as frail as dead branches.
Oh, who needs beefy mitts anyway?
I still think healthy-looking hands like yours are far more attractive.
What? What's to like about these things? Women all over the world dream of having hands like yours. Slender, feminine, and perfectly cared for. I don't know, just looking at them lights a fire in my loins. Makes me want to lick every last one. Actually, say, can I lick them? Can I... Oh my god, Maria, stop it. Can I run my tongue up and down all 10 of those sweet little digits? Come on, can I? What do you say?
Stop that, Maria. Seriously.
I'm kidding, I'm just kidding.
Oh, Maria.
Right. How did those tea leaves turn out, madam? The ones you imported. All the maids just adore it. I can't get enough of that aroma. I'd sure like to get a taste of it. If you, end up with extra, you think you'd, spare a sip for me?
That was, what was in the cups I dropped.
Really? Well, ain't that a crying shame? And Jacopo wouldn't have any of it? God, why does that man have such a stick up his ass? You went through all the trouble of making it for him and...
He was busy. It's not his fault.
Busy? You mean playing billiards, drinking bourbon, and puffing a damn cigar?
It may look to us like they're just making small talk, but I'm certain their meeting has some importance to their business. It was imprudent of me to try to step into the men's world.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, guys. That's just not right. I mean, you're his wife. Why shouldn't you be allowed into the room?
It doesn't bother me.
You don't have to pretend.
Here's an idea. How would you like to have some of that tea now? We also have some orange marmalade, which you like so much. Add a scoop of that, and a tray of cookies, and we have the perfect tea time.
You're singing the siren song, madam. But you really should be doing that with him.
He would not have tea. I suspect he does not like it. I don't want it to go to waste, so...
Madam, I know it's none of my business, and I have no place at all saying this, but it's not impossible for a woman to file a divorce these days. You don't have to sit down and take it. Not one bit. You're pretty, well-educated, and still young. There's hope, even if you do leave him. There are plenty of other men out there. You aren't obligated to stick with that arrogant jerk.
He's just very busy right now.
There you go again.
There was a time when he was kind. He wasn't like this when we first met. Back then he was a little awkward, but a kind man.
Him? A kind man?
Yes, believe it or not. There was indeed a time. Say, Maria, would you mind giving me a little bit more of your time? I'll make some tea, and we can talk. Alright. If you're telling me about when Jakob was decent, I'm all ears. Indeed. As I'm sure you're aware, our parents arranged our marriage. Before I emigrated to this country to be married, I lived in a misty island nation. Portraits of my ancestors hung in the house where I lived. I remember, as a child, wincing in fear at the sight of them staring down at me. My mother and father were constantly telling me to show them respect, as it was their hard work that kept our bloodline alive and well. However, they were fighting an uphill battle to do the same. It would have been clear to anyone reasonably perceptive that our house was coming tumbling down. Valuable furniture and paintings slowly disappeared, and eventually the portraits were gone too. As our house collapsed, so too did my parents' health deteriorate, robbing us of any source of income. And though I was educated, I lacked the skills necessary to obtain work, just as we were about to run out of money and options. My parents received Jakob's parents' marriage proposition. Both of our families stood to benefit from the arrangement. I had social status, and he had wealth. We each had what the other lacked. One needs more than money to make it in the world. Without at least a semi-reputable name attached to you, you're liable to get laughed out of most social gatherings. I first met Jakob here, in this country. We didn't even know what the other looked like until our wedding day. To be quite honest, I was scared to death at first. I was so nervous. What kind of man would he be? Was I to be wed to some middle-aged stranger? We were not marrying because we had fallen in love, like a normal couple. I knew I was in no position to be concerned with such things, but when I thought about our future, I shook with fear. But the man I saw through my veil at the wedding was remarkable. He was young, had strong, masculine eyes, and at the same time, he too appeared nervous. He was shaking as much, no, even more than me. Seeing that, the priest gave an impish little smirk when he asked Jakob if he vowed his eternal love to me. I counted myself among the happy, and I still do, for in that moment, I experienced true love. You wanted to hear about when he was kind to me? Well, after the wedding, we were given a week to ourselves. I suppose you could call it a honeymoon, though we didn't take a trip overseas, or even go very far at all. He looked at me with uncertainty and asked,
"Where would you like to go?"
I beg your pardon?
That's what this week is for, right? I'll consider granting your request, so tell me where you want to go.
This is all so sudden.
Nothing? Well, this whole engagement was spur of the moment. Normally we would have planned a trip in advance, but unfortunately our purpose is served so long as we act the part. You must be disappointed that you have to plan your honeymoon as it's happening.
No,
What? Speak clearly. I don't like it when people don't speak their mind.
I'm sorry. But I'm happy, even if this is a political marriage.
Well, you're quite the positive thinker. Or parents say something to make you think that way? Well, either way, if you're so glad to be in this arrangement, then hurry up and decide on a destination. Though there is a limit to how far we can go. If you want to take a trip, I'll consider it. What? Is something funny?
It just seemed comical to me that our honeymoon has begun and we're only now deciding where we want to go. Not in a bad way, though. I'm glad our parents didn't arrange everything for us. Perhaps you've heard, but I'm quite sensitive to sunlight, and not in the best of health. So it would be rather trying for me to spend a full week out of the house. We couldn't go on a trip, but if it's not too much trouble.
Speak up.
Could you show me around town? I'm new to this country and unfamiliar with its customs. And I'm rather afraid to go wandering around on my own.
Show you around?
Yes. Would that be possible?
On a rare bit of time off, you asked me to show you around town? Is that really the most exciting idea you have?
I'm sorry. If there is somewhere you would like to go, I'm fine with that. I will accompany you anywhere.
As if I could drag someone who just professed to being sickly all over the country. My God. I have lost all interest in a trip. Hello? What are you doing? Go get ready, now.
I beg your pardon?
Didn't you want to see the town?
You will show me around?
You're the one who asked. Not like I have any other options, so... yeah. I'll show you around.
Thank you.
Don't just stand there, you dullard. Get a move on.
One moment. Wait for me, please. He hurriedly climbed into the carriage he had called for, a look of frustrated displeasure on his face. And then, as if he had forgotten about me until that moment, he returned, grabbed me by the arm and led me to the carriage. In retrospect, I realize he was not being very gentlemanly, but I was pleased that he was making any attempt to interact with me at all. As the carriage trotted down the streets, I saw so many new things. I had spent most of my time cooped up inside at home, so it was like stepping into an entirely new world. And add that to the rapid industrial advancement currently taking place. I saw men shouting back and forth as they smacked newspaper articles with the backs of their hands. I saw corner cafes, crowded, with cigar-smoking men on break from work. It was like the hustle and bustle of a festival. But every festival has its underside. I also saw overworked men, looking like they were on the verge of collapse, drinking water from a spigot on the side of the road. By way of contrast, I wore fine clothing and had a carriage at my disposal. I imagine every day was a struggle for them just to remain afloat. Had I not married the man I had, I too might have found myself on the streets in a similar situation. But it was not relief that spread through my breast at the sight of them. It was pangs of guilt. It felt to me like a life of opulence was wrong, sinful. It broke my heart to know that I was living so much better than them. Jacopo snorted disapprovingly at me, seemingly reading my mind, and then said,
"The poor man who envies the rich covets his wealth and finds the ambition to make the same for himself, and the rich man who pities the poor, thinking it his duty to give them offerings of philanthropy. To me, the latter is the far more nefarious. Excessive charity will ruin a man, make him come to expect handouts. And then there are those with the wrong idea of pity, who let themselves fall down to the same place, mistakenly believing it will somehow make the poor feel better. What a joke. If you're going to do anything for them, you might as well encourage them to climb upward. Spur on economic growth and the flow of capital. Doesn't that sound like the better option?"
I say nothing, simply smiling and giving an ambiguous nod. He had a point. My sympathy and guilt meant nothing to people actually experiencing hardship. If, feeling guilty of my own fortune, I acted upon that pity in the way he had described, it would accomplish little more than self-satisfaction. He seemed to have seen straight through to my very core. This was a man who had built his own fortune through investment, which I imagine required him to be rather astute. But doesn't a world where everyone is constantly trying to climb higher and higher sound rather exhausting? I, personally, would prefer to be in a position where I could watch, if only from a distance, as others climbed. But obviously I could not say as much to him. Sometime later, the carriage came to a stop in front of a shop. As I looked at the building perplexedly, he gestured to the door with his chin, signaling for me to get out. Yet lost and confused, I stepped down from the carriage, and before me spread a showcase behind a large glass window. However, lined up in the case were not precious metals or expensive clothing, but machines. At first, I had no idea what kind of devices they were.
Have you never had your photo taken before?
No. I have had a portrait painted, though. Are these machines for taking photographs?
Portrait, eh? Why am I not surprised?
I did not mean to boast.
Go on. Get in.
Please, wait. Wait for me. The owner came out to greet us with a wide smile as we entered the shop.
Well, if this ain't the strangest thing I've seen all day. You bringing a lady.
And a real looker at that. Where on earth you'd catch this pretty little thing?
She's my wife. Well, I beg your pardon. I'll be a monkey's uncle. Just goes to show you never know where the cards may fall. You make it sound like my getting married is some kind of miracle.
I always saw you as one to choose money over love, sir.
Pardon me. This is inappropriate to say in front of your wife.
Do you often come to this shop?
On occasion. I need some things here from time to time.
I see.
There you go, smirking again. What's so funny?
We are going to have our photo taken, yes? I'm so nervous and excited. I've never had one before. And to have it taken side by side with you.
What are you talking about?
Pardon?
Who said we were getting our pictures taken? And side by side? Please. You're sending shivers down my spine.
But this is a photography shop.
Hey, shopkeep. The product I contacted you about. Is it ready?
Oh,
yep. Sit tight, I'll be right out. You take a seat. There's a chair over there.
What?
I'm going to show you something much more exciting than sitting still and waiting in front of a camera lens.
Oh?
Just do as I say.
Okay. I sat down in front of a large mirror, which I presume was normally used to check your appearance before having your picture taken. Sitting before a mirror with someone else present was quite nerve-wracking. Out of embarrassment, I dropped my gaze to my knees. But when Jacopo returned, I was entranced by the curious object in his hands. What is this?
Do you know what persistence of vision is? The human eye does not perceive the world 100% accurately. This is especially true for objects in motion. It remembers images for a short time, so if you put a new image in the same place, your eye perceives it as in motion. Seeing it for yourself will be faster than explaining it. You see the slits in the disc? Look through the bottom one and into the mirror.
Okay.
Good, just like that. Bring your head in close. Here goes.
Standing behind me, he slid his finger across the top of the peculiar toy, causing it to spin gracefully, and then
So, what do you see?
they're dancing. A man and woman are dancing.
Sounds like you're not having any trouble seeing it. Are they dancing well?
Yes. Yes, they are. It's the most adorable thing.
What? Adorable? That's funny. I asked to have it modeled after a ballroom dance.
Yes, it's a very elegant dance. But you see, they're small, like little dwarves, which I thought was kind of cute. And they seem so close, going around and around without ever letting go of each other's hands. This is incredible. Why does it look like they're dancing? They were all lined up in a row a few moments ago.
Goodness, I just explained that to you. It's playing a trick on your eyes. What you're seeing is lots of different pictures in a short period of time. To put it in words you might understand better, it's an illusion. Your eyes are being fooled into thinking the image is moving.
An illusion. But they're dancing. They really are. And they look like they're having a wonderful time. Are you sure it's an illusion and not something else? To me, it does not seem to be. I cannot see it as anything but two tiny people dancing.
That's how it works. Reach out your hand and try to grab them. You won't be able to.
You're right. That's a shame.
I didn't think you actually would.
But it's the most precious thing. They look as though they're dancing atop my palm. I was mesmerized by the strange phenomenon. The pictures were moving after all. Still images had begun dancing before me. It was almost as if God had breathed life into them. He had called it an illusion, but I could not grasp that. It was such an adorable, heartwarming sight. I imagined the two were off, living in some other world, separate from our own. They looked so happy. I was almost certain that they were off dancing in their joyous world, free from all the sorrow and loneliness and pain of this one. Eventually, the speed at which they danced began to began to slow. As if they were resting their legs. I almost thought I could hear the sound of their feet with each step. Thank you. I've had water. Ah, they've stopped.
They can dance forever. They don't get tired.
I see. I'm amazed such an incredible device exists in this world. It makes me wish I had gone outside sooner.
I'm sure someone from as distinguished a house as yours has seen plenty of amazing things with your family.
Hardly. I rarely ever left the house. I'm ignorant about the ways of the world. If you had not told me, I would have probably never known about moving pictures. The illusion of moving pictures.
Do you like it?
Yes, of course.
More than the portrait you had painted?
Yes. Yes, I do. The painting was wonderful too, but
you can't seem to make up your mind. Go on. Tell me, which do you like better? The portrait or this?
I like this better.
I see.
He looks somewhat pleased.
No, when it comes down to it, this is a simple trick only a child would fall for.
Then, I suppose that makes me a child. If it means I get to watch something as splendid as two tiny people dancing, I'll happily fall for the trick.
Quit describing it as two tiny people dancing. You're going to lose your head that far up in the clouds.
I'm sorry. I do not know how else to describe it, though.
It's a toy called a phenakistoscope.
Stop.
Phenakistoscope.
Phenakist wheel.
Close enough. It was invented around 30 years ago. I had the shopkeep make one modeled after the original design.
So the shop owner drew this?
He did. A lot better than you'd expect, isn't he?
Yes, indeed. I am surprised he could draw something so cute.
Say that to his face and he'll go red as a beet. What I'd give to get a load of that. You should tell him the next time you see him.
He's a sweet man.
Despite how he looks, you mean?
It's not right to judge people based on their appearance.
I'm just kidding. Don't take it too seriously. The shopkeep here loves new technology. That phenakistoscope is one such invention that caught his eye. You can trick the eye into thinking drawings are moving. Using a sequence of photos, you can perhaps make it seem as though real people are moving too. And if it becomes possible to show those images to many people at once, these developments could broaden the options artists have to express themselves.
Not drawings, but photographs?
Yes, photos. By taking hundreds, or perhaps thousands of photographs, it would be possible to reproduce the world as we see it. This room, people walking down the streets. There's no point in recording boring everyday life, though. If you're going to leave a record of anything behind, it should be the projects and enterprises that move nations. Say, for example, a moving record of the opening ceremony of the railroad. That would be something worth watching. And then in time, it would expand beyond a mere record-keeping technology and find its way into the hands of artists.
Is such a thing possible? You must remain still for a long time. Just to take a single photograph.
Right now it isn't, but eventually it will be. And I'm not simply fantasizing here.
Is that so? It sounds so very futuristic. Do you
What?
want to support people who work on that sort of thing? Is that why you are friends with the owner?
It has nothing to do with my wants. I merely think there's money in it. The rich starve for entertainment, and artists create that entertainment. I have no interest in their pretentious self-expression. I just want their money. What? What's so funny?
You look like you're enjoying yourself.
Honestly, it's just about the money.
As you say.
Alright, let's get moving. Next is dinner.
What? We're leaving already?
Does that displease you?
No, not at all. To tell you the truth, I wanted to spend a little more time playing with the Phenakis wheel, but I could not bring myself to say as much. Reluctantly, I approached the owner to return the wheel.
Don't bother. Bring it with you.
But
If you don't want it, that's fine too. Just make your decision quickly. You're making the driver wait.
having said that, Jacopo exited the shop. I alternated between looking at his bag and the Phenakis wheel, debating what I wanted to do. And then, with a smile, the the owner whispered to me,
"You're allowed to keep it, really. Your husband out there had it made as a gift for you."
"For me?"
"Little while back, he came to my shop asking if I could make a phenocystoscope. Now that about knocked me out of my chair. He's a man who almost never asks for favors. He's pretty damn brisk, and he's got a tongue sharp enough to cut steel that he's not wicked to his core. I swear it. So please, man, be a pillar of support for him."
In that moment, the Finnegas wheel became a precious treasure to me. We had only just married days earlier. And yet, he had commissioned it for me without even knowing what I looked like. I was filled with a warm, pleasant elation.
"Thank you."
I agreed with the owner. Jakob was not a bad man. He merely had difficulty expressing himself. Hurrying back to the carriage, I gave him my deepest thanks. He glanced over at me for a moment, then turned back toward the window and muttered, "Yeah." From there, we went to a restaurant for dinner.
"You call this a pizza? The crust is an atrocity. It's like I'm chewing on rubber. How can you wave my country's flag and not serve spaghetti? Do you have any shame at all? This wine is pitifully unbalanced. Far too high levels of acidity. Listen to me carefully. The house wine is the face of the restaurant."
He complained about every little thing. It was a complete disaster. But, curiously enough, I was not at all put off by his behavior. When the sun set, the carriage made its way to a nearby hill. The cool nighttime breeze felt wonderful on my skin. Flush from the alcohol and the light from the gas lamps had a comforting warmth to it. Although Jacopo had complained about the quality of the wine, once he had intoxicated himself, his mood improved visibly. It made him unexpectedly talkative.
"Look out at the city. A gloomy town that shuts down at night isn't suited to expansion or growth, but this city isn't like that. You can see people walking beneath the lamps, you can hear the bustle of them talking. This is a city that still has plenty of room to grow. As they ride the rising wave of the economy, many, many more people will gather here. More people means more money in circulation. More money in circulation means the city grows, companies are founded, and more goods are bought and sold."
Will it really change so drastically?
It can be difficult to see what's happening from the inside. The majority of people just go about their daily lives, and the next thing they know, things are different. No, I'd wager most don't notice the changes at all. Only those with eyes sharp enough to realize what's happening can seize success. I cannot afford to overlook even the most minute change.
Do you have a dream of some kind?
A dream? I'm not sure if it's easy enough to attain to call it dream. Others might call it greed, or perhaps ambition. Don't laugh now. My intention is to make the world mine.
The world?
Yes, the world. And to do that, you need neither physical strength nor kindness, but money and influence. People have no choice but to kneel before those forces.
Why are you so intent on obtaining power?
Because I want to change my country, I imagine.
Your country?
You are aware that I, like you, am an immigrant, right? I emigrated from an island in the Mediterranean, though not the same island as you. My country is a peculiar place, where candor and violence go hand in hand. As a whole, the country is on the poor side, and if nobody does anything about that. I am one of but a few of my fellow countrymen who has set his sights on the New World. They are falling far behind other nations. If I find success here, perhaps that will catch their attention. But if it doesn't, then my country is doomed to collapse.
You have much love for your homeland.
My feelings are a little more complicated than mere love, but that's nothing you need to concern yourself with. Well, I'll have to remember not to get myself drunk around a woman again. Forget everything I just said. It's about time we head back to the house.
All right, but,
What is it?
is it all right if I provide you encouragement as you try to attain your dream? I know my presence is more likely to be a hindrance, but I would like to be there to watch as you trek forward.
I suppose. Do as you wish.
Thank you. You have my support, then. Darling?
Send a shiver down my spine, though not an unpleasant one. I'm glad to have you as my partner.
I was, without a doubt, happy then. His smile, the things he said, the Fennicus wheel he gave me, they were all undeniably real, and those memories give me the will to wait for the day things go back to the way they were. They allow me to believe.
This is something that actually happened to another maid. She heard a sound in the middle of the night, a sound like dripping water. At first she thought it was raining, so she looked through the window, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky to cover the stars. Maybe it's a faucet, she thought, so she stepped out of her room and into the corridor. Compared to her room, it was unearthly chilly. The maid regretted not bringing something to cover herself with. But that didn't make any sense. Normally, the temperature wasn't that much colder outside her room. Her nightclothes had always been more than enough for a trip to the lavatory. Wondering what the reason could be, she made her way toward the sound, but then she realized something. There were no faucets in the direction she was going. Rather, she was headed toward a hall. The mansion where she had served had many halls, but this one was off in a far corner of the house, the least used hall of them all. It had a high roof, but not a lot of space, so it was difficult to make good use of. It also had a somewhat heavy air to it, a very curious room. It was the kind of place you might assign someone to clean as part of their hazing. Anyway, when the maid realized the sound was coming from that particular hall, she, as you might expect, let out an uncomfortable sigh. But there might be a leak, and having noticed, she couldn't simply ignore it, you know? So, as much as she hesitated, she pushed open the doors to the hall. There was nobody there, and it didn't look like anything was leaking either. There were no puddles or water stains anywhere to be found. But she could still hear the sound, drip, drip, getting louder and louder. Slowly stepping further into the room, looking left and right, then left again.
She searched for the source of the sound, coming to a stop in the center of the hall. She stood there, still, quiet, and then a chilly spot on the nape of her neck. With a little yelp, she reached back to feel her neck, but it wasn't wet. Confused, she slowly, warily tilted her head backward. And there hung a bloody skeleton from the ceiling! Ah! Jacopo. Insert ka from Jacopo. That's rich. Amazing. Oh my god. You scream like a little girl. Maria, you little... My god, are you men or children? This is my house and I would rather you didn't talk about it like that. Whose words were those again?
Shut your mouth! How do you know about that? Were you eavesdropping? And another thing, I do not care for the sort of stupid fantastical tales you women so love to pass around. Because they scare you?
Ha! You've never been able to handle anything scary, Jacopo.
Don't glare at me like that. You're gonna destroy my sides. So, did you come here for the sole purpose of telling me that cheap tripe?
Acting tough after the fact just makes you look like twice as much of a wuss. Well, I mean, I did make up a good half of it, but the maid really did hear a sound in the middle of the night. And it came from the back hall of this very mansion. Did you know? They say it used to be a chapel?
Again, I have no interest in you women's little ghost stories.
Is that so? You sure you're not just scared?
Maria!
Well, that's it. The rumors aren't completely unfounded. This is a pretty old mansion, and it's had a lot of work done in it. Kind of feels like it's barely holding itself together. Like a big old quilt with pieces from all different time periods. The back hall is one of the oldest patches. There's a huge window on the far end, and supposedly there used to be stained glass in it. It was a depiction of an archangel, they say. Such a shame. I wonder when it was broken. If it was still there, I bet it'd be worth a fortune.
I find that hard to believe. First of all, why would anyone put a chapel inside a mansion?
Got a point, I guess.
Now, how about you do some actual work, instead of distracting yourself with all this nonsense?
I do work, but the other maids can be a bit nasty, you know? Dealing with other women is like walking in glass.
Am I to blame for that?
What if I said you were? Don't give me that look. They're just not fond of me. Simple as that. Nothing you can do about it.
Is that so?
Oh, yeah, I was talking to the madam, and she was telling me you used to be quite the gentleman. Were you perhaps actually in love back then? You sure don't act like it, so it's easy to miss, but I guess you're not entirely made out of steel. Just like when you were younger, you're still...
Do not speak of that. The past is not worth remembering. It is unnecessary.
So, to you, the past exists just to be cast aside? No, it's not important. You don't want me to talk about it, I won't talk about it. But your wife... Never mind. I'll leave you be. I have to get back to work soon, or I'll be staring down the headmaid's arctic smile.
Alright.
If the fancy strikes me, I'll drop by and we can trade more ghost stories.
Maria.
What? No ghost stories?
No, not that. I have not forgotten those days. But no, I'll be off then. Alright. If the fancy strikes you, drop by and we can trade something other than ghost stories.
What'd I tell ya? I'll consider it. Goodbye.
God damn it. I can't escape anything.
They've grown to be so beautiful. Such a wonderful fragrance. The scent of roses is so calming. I wonder why that is. Would it cause any trouble if I picked one? Well, hello there. Out for a midnight stroll, are you? Quite the peculiar hobby. Madam? I cannot spend as much time as I would like outside during the day, so I end up coming out at night. I apologize if I startled you. Oh no, not at all. There is a chilling, captivating beauty to the sight of your snow-white form standing there in the moonlit garden. I would hardly... What are you doing out so late? I saw a figure through the window. On the slight chance it might be a burglar, I thought it my responsibility to ensure they did not break in. It was also the middle of the night when the grocer's servant broke into their safe. News of that spread quite far. I am sure you would have heard about it. Oh, but Gamache was imprisoned some time ago. Dear me, cannot seem to get my head out of the past. Do you intend to give that white rose to someone? Yes. I was thinking about giving it to my husband. While I expect he has little fondness for such feminine tastes, the scent of flowers has a truly calming effect. He might find it relaxing when he needs a reprieve from his work. Oh, is that so? You are very kind-hearted. Speaking of white roses, the rose he meant to give you was the same shade of white. Oh? He? But when you touched it, it turned a deep shade of red. There was but a single white rose in the garden, so he was unable to give it to you as he had wished. In its place, he had a decorative rose fashioned for you. What exactly are you referring to? Oh dear, do you not remember? Then, am I to assume you have forgotten what happened to the rose accessory as well? He was unable to give that to you either, but that time because you rejected the gift. I am not criticizing you for that decision, of course. You had a perfectly good reason for not accepting it. Heartbroken from having lost you, he buried the rose in this garden. Over the years, the roses in the garden withered away, and in their place grew a thick, unsightly nest of weeds. Many, many years later, that accessory was dug up by a beast, and curiously enough, it had not a speck of rust on it. A beast? You do not remember him either? The foreign man, through his interaction with you, almost regained his humanity. I am Sorry. I have no idea what you speak of. The only gift I have ever received from a man is my Fennecis wheel. And furthermore, I have only lived in this mansion for a year. While the garden was not as thriving as it is now, it was certainly not in ruins when I arrived. Because I had been taking care of it, yes. But, for whatever reason, by my hands alone I was unable to make it into anything quite as splendid as it is now. Once you arrived and began to work on it, however, just look around. You have restored it to its former glory, to the magnificence of the flaxen-haired family's time. I promise, I'm not trying to fault you for anything. Now that I think about it, it makes sense you would not remember. Though you are still you are different than before. Different. Though not in the sense you are a wholly distinct person. Tell me, is your name again? My name is... Yes, but you should already know that. Again? More proof that you are indeed you. Did you know that your current name is pronounced the same as the name of the person you are waiting for? What are you talking about? I have met you many times, and I know of your past, of events that transpired long, long ago. I'm telling you the truth. I first came to this mansion just a year ago. Until then, I had never left my country, or even set foot out of my own house. We did not have any servants, either. So, where, then, are you saying we met? This mansion, of course. But I'm telling the truth. It was a year ago, shortly after my parents fell ill and received an offer for my marriage. I knew something had to be done. I knew it, and so I'm telling the truth. If that is what you remember, then I do not doubt you. But I also suspect I know why you seem so flustered. Are there moments when your memories seem hazy? When it seems like important details have fallen through the cracks? You needn't fret. One day, eventually, you shall remember all. One day.
What the hell is this? A white rose? Did she leave this here? A flower? What does she think she's doing? Is she trying to aggravate me? That garden. That damn rose garden is the whole problem. Flowers serve no purpose but to deceive. That garden is a sign of weakness. It has no place in this house.
Approximately a week had passed since then. The white-haired girl was, as usual, spending her time in her room reading, staying inside the house. Then Maria barged in. Madam! Madam! Oh my, you're out of breath. What happened?
What happened is we have a big problem. The garden. The rose garden.
The garden?
All the roses you put so much love and care into growing are being chopped down. We'll lose them all if we don't hurry.
Upon hearing the news, the white-haired girl dashed from her room and toward the garden, with Maria following close behind. When she arrived, she saw a dozen or so sweaty, rugged men at work, Jacopo shouting orders. The men clearly had no concept of how much a single flower was worth, no concern whatsoever for their beauty, for they mercilessly, thoughtlessly, hacked away at the shrubs like they were naught but weeds. Each flower they tore from the earth extinguished another of the many lives the white-haired girl had put so much time and effort into tending for. Jacopo, what are you?
Hello, Maria. I didn't expect you would come with her.
Why would you do?
Why? Why, it goes without saying. This house has no need of a garden. Damn flowers have no place here. Might as well do something worthwhile with the soil. A miniature railroad would be a better use of the space, and certainly a great deal easier on the eyes. I could even get my hands on some genuine wheels. The same wheels being used on the revolutionary transcontinental railroad. 10 or 20 years down the line, they'll be worth a fortune.
Jacopo, you know how much this garden meant to me, don't you? Did it honestly have no place here? Flowers have a calming effect on people. They give you peace. They are not, by any means, worthless.
So you're saying that white rose was your passive-aggressive way of telling me to calm down?
Not at all. I simply thought you...
At the end of the day, you're just using them for your own purposes. To trick and deceive. To you, this rose garden was nothing but...
Jacopo! You've gone too far. This isn't right.
Gone too far? This is my mansion. What I do with my property is my business. With that rose arch out of the picture, we'll have a much better view. There won't be anything blocking the sun any longer. Weren't you supposed to be sensitive to sunlight? Spend too much time out here and you're liable to fall ill. Get back inside now. You too, Maria.
The poor thing, though she did not say a word, was surely thinking, "Are you truly that determined to rob me of my sanctuary?" The words twirled around in her head, unable to make the final journey to her lips. She stood there, looking down at her own feet, as her husband marched off, and listened to the screams of the roses being reaped. After being torn down by Jacopo, the garden reverted to a state of ruined desolation. A shame, after all the work that went into restoring it to the beauty it had under the flaxen-haired family. And as Jacopo had said, in its place went scraps of metal, train wheels, prototype models, carbon rods. These items may have had value for him, but I certainly do not think it was worth robbing his wife of a place that made her feel comfortable, just so he could store them there. Besides, I was rather fond of the rose garden myself. The roses seemed to evoke a sense of nostalgia in me. I felt as though, somewhere beyond the edge of my memories, I had seen another garden of roses, modest though it may have been, but I cannot remember when it was. Does that come as a surprise to you? I am quite sure there are periods of the mansion's history of which I am not aware, but in any case, Jacopo had caused many people great pain in order to repurpose that garden for himself, and he continued to walk all over his wife. Whenever she tried to do something kind for him, he would brush her off, saying, "That's not your place." He paid no mind whatsoever the looks of dejection that rose to her face each time he rejected her. I was beginning to wonder if anything she had said about the man he had been a year earlier was actually true, and if it was true, could a person really go through such a drastic change of heart in such a short time? What do you think, Master? No, I have spoken enough about me already. I seem to be talking a lot about myself this time, but that is hardly appropriate behavior for a maid. Now, let us return to our tale. That evening, the white-haired girl sat in her room staring sorrowfully at her Finnicus wheel. A small mirror before her, she tried spinning the paper disc, but it was just not the same as before. Her husband was not there at her side, and even more critically, there was not a smile on her face. And then, she heard a faint knock at her door. Who is it? It's me, madam. It's me. May I come in? Oh, Maria. Of course. Come in. What are you doing here at this time of night? Was just wondering how you were doing. Should I have left you alone? Oh, it's no trouble at all. I'm always glad to have you. You're making me blush, madam. I got the feeling you were a little down in the dumps. So I'm not here because I need to be. I just kinda ended up here, I guess. Maria. So sorry, I'm not making any sense. I can be a bit of a busybody, you know? Trouble with boundaries, I guess. Never been able to fix that. No, I don't consider you intrusive at all. I cannot count how many times your bright smile and cheerful energy have shone a light on me when things were dark. If I didn't have you, I would have given up already. You seem to see right through me. Even now, you are exactly right. I'm feeling a little dispirited. That garden was an even bigger life raft than I thought. Perhaps I'm being overly dramatic, but the roses were almost like children to me. I get it. I do. You put your heart and soul into tending that garden. It was obvious how much you loved them. Of course it's gonna hurt watching a bunch of men stomp all over your flowers when you cared for them like your own children. Now, I know I said this once already, but you don't need to force yourself to put up with him. Really. You don't have to bend to his will just because you're a woman. You can survive without him. Anytime you want to walk away, that's your choice. I mean, I'd sure be lonely if you left, madam, but your happiness is more important than any of that. So, you know? Thank you, Maria. I truly do appreciate it. But I would like still to wait for the day I can see his warm smile once more. If you say so. Well, in that case, I guess I'll just have to be there to back you up. Yeah, it'll be alright. You leave everything to this holy virgin. I'll have a stupid grin on my face no matter how down you're feeling. You really are the reincarnation of the Mother of God, aren't you? Oh, I told you, it's just a joke. Whatever. So hey, madam, how about a dance? A dance? At this time of night? Yep, and since it's so late, no loud music. All you get is a little whistling, courtesy of me. But this room is too small for... we'll use the Great Hall. Wouldn't that put us in everyone else's way? He would probably complain about the noise, too. No need to worry. Jakob was out inspecting some factory or something today. After that, he's got a meeting, so he'll be staying the night elsewhere. The rest of the maids are in their rooms chatting away. No one will notice. Where I come from, we dance all the time. We take, eat, drink, and be merry to heart. No food or drink for us, but we absolutely can dance. Dancing's a great way to forget all your cares. I am not much of a dancer. No big deal. Nobody's watching. Come on, put a little fancy perfume and let's have some fun. I don't have any perfume, though. Didn't think so. You've got all the right ingredients, madam. But you don't try to make anything special out of it. You've got so much potential, but not even a decent-sized wardrobe. At the very least, you should wear some perfume. Which is why... Ta-da! I brought some with me. The maids are in love with this stuff. It's a big hit with women all over the country. The base is vanilla, and it's got several other fragrances mixed in. Give it a try. It smells divine. But Maria, Come on. What's the harm? Just a little splash on your wrist, like so. What do you think? You were right. It smells wonderful. Doesn't it? So, you like it? Yes, very much so. Excellent. Now off we go to the Great Hall. Are we really going to dance? You bet your butt we are. It's not healthy to hole up in your room all day. I know you can't handle a lot of sunlight, but you've still got to have some fun and move your body. Come on, let's go. Oh, Maria. Though she looked outwardly uncertain as Maria led her forward, hand around her wrist, the white-haired girl seemed to be enjoying herself on the inside. Having spent her life without a single friend, she never dreamed the day would come when she would find herself being dragged through the empty halls of a dark mansion by another woman. Maria's presence seemed to shine a light upon the quiet corridor. It would have been a very lonely trek without her. Maria spun around, gave an impish smirk, and raised her pointer finger to her lips with a soft shh. The sight of it caused the white-haired girl to chuckle quietly. The two of them, on their way to their secret, private ball, were like two adolescent girls. In short order, they arrived at the Great Hall. My heart was pounding all the way here. What's there to be nervous about? It's not like you're breaking any rules. Only kids get in trouble for staying up late. Once you've grown up, you're responsible for yourself. I will say, though, that it seems rather odd for two women to dance together. Oh, if you're having a good time, what does it matter what's between your legs? Where I come from, there's dances where families lock arms in a big ring and go around in circles. So who says two girls can't have some fun together? I imagine you had many good moments with your family. Well, I don't have a family anymore. What? Alright, so I'll show you how it's done. Watch carefully, cause you're up next. Okay. With a wide grin on her face, Maria began whistling softly and prancing across the floor with an energetic rhythm. It was not the kind of complicated dance you'd see at fancy parties. The motions were simple, flowing, unembellished. A folk dance, I suppose you might call it. She seemed to be improvising a little bit as well. But, in any event, the white-haired girl was captivated. Despite it being a sequence of steps anyone could replicate, Maria breathed life into the dance. She was neither as lithe as an acrobat, nor as light on her feet as a professional dancer. She was her own lively, beautiful self. Maria twirled in place, the skirt of her maid uniform billowing gently up around her. With a smile, she extended her hand toward the white-haired girl. She hesitated for a moment, but, as if being pulled forward by some invisible force, she took Maria's hand. Hand in hand, Maria ushered the white-haired girl into her dance. It was just the two of them, but you could almost see the crowd forming around them, the other people stepping up to join in. That's it, madam. Doing great. Now lift your leg up, good, and spin like so. This is not easy, Maria. I'm having trouble following along. You can do it. Looking good so far. You're a natural, madam. Oh, Maria. I won't fall for your flattery. I mean it. The whispers of the two girls. Their muffled laughs. Step hop, step step. The rustling of fabric. Many different soft sounds layered atop one another, creating a little bubble of happiness in the center of the hall. The white-haired girl's movements were a great deal clumsier than Maria's, but Maria would never disparage her for that. On the contrary, she showered her with praise. As flustered as the white-haired girl appeared, I imagine she was quite pleased. Before long, the tightness in her face muscle loosened, a smile spread across her lips, and she began to brighten up. See? What'd I tell you? Fun, huh? Yes, quite surprised. Both that I can dance, and that I enjoy doing it so much. Glad to hear it. They exchanged looks, and both laughed. That might have been the first time I'd ever seen the white-haired girl so delighted. However, because of her infirmity, she quickly found herself out of breath, and her porcelain skin flushed red. Maria immediately stopped for a break. She could surely have continued dancing for some time yet, but Maria was conscientious of the white-haired girl's physical condition. She looked over at Maria regretfully. My apologies. If only I had more stamina. I'm hardly a suitable partner for you, Maria. Sure you are. This is all to cheer you up, madam. So as long as you're having fun, nothing else matters. And heck, I'm enjoying myself plenty too. What do you think? Wouldn't it be nice to do this again sometime? Whenever you're feeling down, let's dance. If you really do enjoy dancing with a frail girl like me, then I would be glad to. Have a little more confidence in yourself, madam. You're so pretty and kind-hearted. I have loads of fun when I'm with you, so you don't need to be so hard on yourself. Got it? Thank you. The pleasure's mine. It is an absolute honor to have the rare opportunity to see such a bright smile on your face, madam. My apologies for keeping you out so late. I should get back to my room. I didn't even realize what time it was. I'm more than up for a little gum flapping. You have improved my mood more than adequately. I would not want you to be tired for work tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well then, let's get out of here. Yes, let's. Smiles on both of their faces, they made to exit the great hall. However, before they reached the door, it swung open A man's towering shadow cast the two women into darkness, his cold, bitter glare affixed on them. If I'd had even the faintest premonition this might happen, I would have done anything in my power to stop the two cheery girls on their way to the hall. But I am eternally powerless.
What are you doing?
Standing before them in the doorway was the master of the house, Jacopo. I thought you would not be back until tomorrow.
And how would you know that? No, forget that. Does my staying the night elsewhere have any effect on you? You were just waiting for this opportunity, weren't you?
No. What would I possibly want you out of the house for?
I'm sure you know better than anyone. What is that smell? Perfume? When did you get perfume? And I have to say, you seem to be having quite the time. Look at you. You're out of breath. Red as a beet. I made the right decision coming back. Where the hell were you going?
No, I wasn't going. Jacopo, calm down. Seriously.
You shut it. Now you're taking this tramp's side? I've told you before you are not to leave this house without first consulting me. Or do you mean to tell me you've forgotten? God, your ears aren't just for show, all right. They're better than that. They'll even throw out the parts you don't want to hear.
No, I swear, I was not doing anything you...
Silence! I have no interest in your excuses. You're always watching from the shadows, observing, trying not to step on anyone's toes. And in the back of your mind, you're mocking me.
No,
Listen up, and listen good. You just try stepping out of line again. You just try disgracing me again. You will not get away with it. For the love of God, get back to your room now. You too, Maria.
All right.
God, what is this sickeningly sweet smell? How utterly infuriating. It'll take forever to get this off me. I always thought you had at least some sense of taste.
Why did he have to disparage her so? What did she do wrong? What did she do to deserve that? She did nothing whatsoever wrong. She deserved none of the ridicule he showered her with. However, she was not a strong-willed woman. She did not have the courage to retort to the man yelling at her. And neither did Maria, it seemed. Without another word, they both scrambled out of the great hall, away from Jacopo. The white-haired girl was a painfully miserable sight to behold. The cheer had drained from her spirit, and the rosy hue from her now pale cheeks. She was hunched forward slightly, looking like a small, scared animal. Hey, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. If I hadn't asked you to dance, and me bringing the perfume only made things worse. No. You need not feel bad about anything, Maria. Everything you did was with my best interests at heart. So, don't worry. I will be fine. So, madam, I'll clear everything up. I really am to blame after all. He wouldn't even give you the time of day if you tried. He's a... Oh, I forgot Maria swears. He's a stubborn little sack when he's mad. I'll talk to him. He's more likely to listen to me. I'll make sure he knows he was jumping to conclusions, that I'm the one who dragged you out there to dance, and also that I forced you to wear the perfume. I'll clear everything up, okay? So, please, you cheer up. It would be best if I could tell him myself. But yes, you are right. He would likely not listen to me. He rarely ever listens to me. I should be ashamed. I cannot even hold a simple conversation with my own husband. These things happen, you know? It's not easy being married in a lot of ways. Yes. Yes. You're right. I apologize for having you do something so unpleasant, but I would appreciate that. Oh, no, no problem. I'm happy to. No need to apologize. I've got this. I'll dunk his head in cold water until he's not blowing steam from his ears anymore. I'll cool him down. Promise. And you never know. Maybe he'll be open to listening. You could be back to the way you were a year ago in no time. Don't you worry. I'll take care of it, madam. Be positive. You look so much better with a smile on your face. Oh, all right. Thank you. I doubted Jacopo would listen, even coming from Maria, and I imagine the white-haired girl felt much the same way. However, she grabbed onto that sliver of hope. She let herself dream. She let herself believe, even just faintly, that everything would go well. Such is human nature. When uncertainty has you in its clutches, you grasp at whatever hope you can find to keep yourself afloat. That night, she did not sleep. She was afraid that even in her dreams, Jacopo would be shouting at her. She felt as though her memories of a year prior were beginning to crumble away. Well, doesn't life suck for the white-haired girl again? Yeah. Honestly, I was all for the Maria and white-haired girl runaway arc. I was like, those two should just get out of here. Like, bye. Bye, Jacopo. The next morning, Jacopo stood alone in the den by the billiards table. He appeared to be rather agitated. His face was twisted into a frown, his pointer finger tapping restlessly against the hard surface of the table. Evidently no longer able to stay in one place, he paced a circle around the table, then swiped up a rack and a cue, setting up a game of 9-ball. I am not intimately familiar with the ways by which men entertain themselves, but in truth, I was bewitched by the sight of him leaning over the table. It almost seemed as though A steel rod ran straight from his shoulder to the tip of his outstretched finger, upon which the cue was secured by another finger looped over it. With a smooth, flowing motion, he thrust the cue forward slightly, pulling it back and repeating the process once more, before ramming it into the cue ball, sending it rolling into the diamond of colored balls. A chorus of clicks and clacks emanated from the center of the room. Balls collided with one another and ricocheted off the cushioned walls, a few landing in the pockets situated around the edge of the table. Jacopo appeared to have accomplished this with little trouble, but I imagine merely striking the cue ball with a stick would be rather difficult for someone inexperienced. But despite his accomplishment, it seemed to only exacerbate his agitation. "Lousy positioning," he muttered, though I hadn't the faintest idea what he was talking about. What should have been a game for his enjoyment, he went about with a constant look of exasperation. I suspect he was using it as a way to blow off steam, and as a result, the tension in the air was palpable. I felt it would be improper to intrude upon him, even considering my distaste for the man. There was an undeniable beauty in every motion he made, every perfectly audible clack of billiards balls bouncing off one another. It was an enchanting sight. But then, someone without the slightest regard or appreciation for beauty came marching in with a hammer to shatter it like glass.
Gotta say, that was pretty impressive.
A man leaned against the frame of the open door. He was neither a resident nor worker of the mansion. The man's face was covered in scraggly stubble, his body draped in grime-caked garments. His eyes were sunken in so deep. It was as though I was looking at a fleshless skull, though there was a fairer glimmer in them. Needless to say, he was not prim and proper.
How long have you been there? Not long, but man, I can't help laughing. You were completely in your own world there. What do you want? Why didn't you send a maid for me? Don't be such a hard ass. We aren't strangers, man. Why should family have to go through the maze to see you? That just ain't right, brother. Your doors should always be open for family. Enough. I'm not your family. We're bound by something even stronger than blood. By our family, our Koska. You only ever bring up the Koska when it's in your interest. Scary. Come on now. What happened to you, little Jack? Where'd the little boy who used to call me Uncle Tommy go? Don't you dare use that godforsaken name. Get the hell out of my sight. What in... sorry? What in God's name are you doing here?
The man hailed from the same country as Jacopo. They had a peculiar relationship. Though they were not blood related, he referred to Jacopo as family. They came from a sunny island in the Mediterranean Sea, a place of many unique customs, and an entire underground society. Koska was a word that originated from and referred to those underworld families. It would be another 30 or so years before organizations like theirs received much public attention. At the time, they were not widely known. Just a short step into the future and they would grow so powerful, the very mention of them would send a chill through the room.
Hey now. That's no way to talk to a fellow Bazzati.
You're on the shortlist to become the next... Carpa I don't know how to say this even. Carpa Familia? Familia? I need to Google this? Sorry. Is the G silent? Become the next bun mafia. Capo familiar? Is it familiar? Nandaro. We respect our brothers. That's how we operate. I could go home and say, you threw me out of your house. How'd you like those rumors to spread? The soon-to-be capo familia wouldn't even listen to a little request. I very much doubt anything you said could damage my reputation. Thank you. Drink. I'll drink water. Thank you. I ain't been exiled yet. And as long as I'm still one of them, they won't ignore me. It's a mighty fine looking whiskey you got there. Don't mind if I do. Nothing here is for you to drink. Booze is my lifeblood, man. No love for a brother. You worthless leech. It surely won't be long before you find yourself in exile. If you're lucky enough to get off the hook with just exile, that is. A child could snap that scrawny neck of yours. If I'm gonna go, I'd rather go tied up, tortured for days, covered in tiny little cuts from head to toe. You sick bastard! You disgust me. Call me a carnal adventurer. I despise the mundane. Last thing I want to go out is like a wet fart. Is this what you came for? To waste my time with your insipid nonsense? Hardly. Surely you have an idea what I'm here for. And how much I need. You damn maggot. A worthless leech, a sick bastard, and a damned maggot. What are the names you got up your sleeve for me? You son of... Do you honestly think this is how you ask for a favor? Whoops. Excuse me. I beg of thee, esteemed future capo familia. I'm bone broke. Not even enough money to put bread on the table. Could you spare a little for a brother? You brought this on yourself, I'm sure. I hear more than enough stories about you, and hardly any of them pleasant. Drinking, gambling, debauchery. I'm humiliated to be in the same Costco as you. You want to make money plan? You gotta learn the game first. Says the worm who played himself into oblivion. Now, do you honestly believe I'll give you anything? But you will. You got no choice. Costco rules. You're required to help a fellow countryman. Especially considering how few of us there are stranded on this colossal landmass. You won't even notice the money's missing. It ain't because you can't, but because you don't wanna. But, Jacopo, being a tight ass is nothing for you. Me coming to you for help keeps your good name clean. That's the thing about being boss. You quietly keep little sacks like me out of trouble. So that trouble don't come raining back on you. You do not seem to understand your place. Rather than lecturing me, you should be on your hands and knees, begging and crying for my help. If that's what you want, I'll gladly comply. Happy to kiss your boots while I'm at it. Don't even think about it. Know this. There won't be a second time. Thank you for the bun stretch, Raheem. Bun wiggle.
I will be reporting your conduct to the family back home. I look forward to seeing how they deal with you. Just try to have a little mercy, would ya? Hey! Is there another maid around? Doesn't matter who.
How may I serve you, master?
Get a single stack from the safe. Here's the key. Goes without saying, but don't touch anything else. Give the money to that man as you're escorting him out the door.
As you wish. Is that all you needed?
Yes. Now get to it.
Very well. Excuse me.
Well. That's one looker of a maid you got there. There's something, I don't know, eerie, strange about her. Fancy that. We agree on something. How long's she been working here? Couldn't tell you. As I recall, she came with the house. Is that the kind of woman you fancy? Gal you can't read will always be interesting. Is that so? Now that he mentions it. How old is that woman? Though I suppose it doesn't much matter. Oh, yep, Jacopo. One other thing I wanted to talk to you about. What is it this time? And if it's more of your blather, I will shoot you dead where you stand. No need for threats. This one's about your, better half. What about my wife? Well, to put it simply, yeah. She came to me asking for advice, looking a little distressed. My wife asked you for advice? Yeah, from the sounds of it, you're pretty rough on the little lady. That just ain't right, man. You managed to stag yourself abroad that pretty. You ought to treat her at least a little better, yeah? She looks good with a smile. Gotta make her show it to you every once in a while. Why would she come to you about that? Don't ask me. Maybe she ain't got no one else to talk to. And you know, for whatever it's worth, I am part of the same Cosca. Guessing she thought, I'd get through to you easier? Really, you just have to put a little more thought into how you act around her and she'll be smiling for you like always. Yeah, I've got just the thing. Women love this stuff. I'm sure she'll be thrilled. Is that perfume? Haven't you heard? Everyone's talking about it. I'm a big fan of the stuff too. Smells great. A pretty girl smiles at you, wearing some of this. Any man'd be love in an instant. You've never given her nothing fashionable before, have you? May look like just scented water, but you can't let that fool you. Go on. Give it to her. You like a nice smelling lady too, don't you? A little bit of scent can give a different flavor to your nighttime excitement. Vanilla. Oh, I've said my piece, so I'll be taking my leave. Don't want to keep your maid waiting too long and get on her bad side. Hold on. Tommaso. Why would she? Make it last. That's all the advice your Uncle Tommy has for you. Ciao. Wait, Tommaso. I could go after him. Be a simple task to catch him, grab him by the neck, make him tell me. Tell me where he spoke with her and what she told him. But why? Why will my legs not move? Asking him for advice? Fashionable perfume? Her smile? She looks good with a smile? she'll be smiling for you like always. There can't be. She hardly ever smiles around me. But she'll smile for him? Last night, when she was short of breath, having such a grand time, wearing that perfume, getting ready to leave the house. Just who was that smile for? God damn it. Don't you think I'll let you run free any longer?
His eyebrows were furrowed, creating deep creases on his forehead. Several servants stood off to the side, watching their master attentively as he stomped past them down the corridor. However, no one said a word to him. Had I not been preoccupied attending to his countryman, I likely could have prevented it. The look on his face would have made it obvious something bad was about to happen. Something that would serve only to further her misfortune. She was already in a less than ideal situation, and it was perched on the edge of a hill, soon to begin rolling down into even worse territory. Jacopo, what's the matter? If you wanted to visit, you could have said something, rather than coming in without knocking.
Is that really necessary?
Pardon?
Is there something you so desperately want to keep from me that I must knock before entering? That I should have to let you know in advance that I'm coming?
What are you...
Well, is there? You went to talk to him behind my back, I'm told. What do you tell him? You moan to him about my behavior?
That hurts.
You told him I'm rough with you. You cried on his shoulder because I'm not nice enough. Him, of all people.
Wait, Jacopo, you're mistaken. Let me...
Silence! Not a word, not a single godforsaken word. The only thing that comes out of your mouth is excuses, lies, and fabrication. You put on this sweet, innocent little girl act, but what's really going through your head? Maybe I should just rip that mask off your face.
Stop, Jacopo.
Look down on me, your nobility, and I'm just a nobody who married into it.
No, stop it. Let go of me, please.
When did it start?
Yabe. Sorry, what's... Pardon the sirens outside. It's a busy day.
How long have you been seeing him? Who else have you been seeing? Covering yourself in fashionable perfume and smiling even though you never smile around me.
Please let me go.
I can see it in your eyes. He's just a worthless commoner.
Why would you think that? Why will you not listen to me?
Silence! It's all your fault. Every last thing. I tell you not to leave the house, but you do. I tell you to do as I say, but you ignore me. Every last thing you do drives me mad. I don't have time right now to deal with this, to rack my mind over you, over a woman. I don't have time for it. Why do you not do as I say? Do you not have enough already? Will you not be satisfied until you have taken even my arms and legs? I've given you money, clothing, everything. You have an incredible life. Look around you. The life of luxury you and your parents wanted. It's right. Here you have it. What more could you possibly want? Why do you insist on being unfaithful?
Unfaithful? You think that what I'm doing is unfaithful to you?
How else should I describe it? You leave your room despite my ordering you not to. Don't think I don't know. When you came to the den the other day, you had your eyes on the other men.
No, I did not. I had no such inclination.
Enough! Not another word from you. I have no interest in your excuses. If that's how you're gonna act, then say goodbye to your freedom. You're forbidden from leaving the mansion, or your room for that matter, or even speaking to the servants. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll make you a new room. Too many people come in and out of this one. Be somewhere quieter, out of the way. You like the garden? How about I put it there? If you leave that room without my permission, this time, I'll kill you.
Why will you not listen to me? Jacopo, the master of the house, likely loved the white-haired girl. That is what I saw in their exchange. Normally, love is supposed to be a sweet, warm, wonderful emotion. It makes you care for, value that person even more than yourself. But it was the exact opposite for him. I never knew that love could be such a painful thing. How did his love end up so twisted? What did he expect to happen by confining and abusing the woman he loved? Perhaps he was conscious of that. To be human is sometimes to find oneself driven by uncontrollable internal impulses. A few days later, Jacopo dragged the white-haired girl from her chamber and led her outside. The garden she had once loved was now a thing of the past. It had become a dreary space, nary a rose in sight, and being taken there did nothing to improve her mood, only sadden her further. The cold, grey piles of metal freckling the barren earth seemed to mock her. Her husband led her, the lady of the house, to a shed that had been repurposed into a Spartan living area. She begged and pleaded, but Jacopo would not have it. He shoved her into the sad little shack and locked the door. How did things end up this way? Why? All I wanted was to go back to the way things used to be. For us to be able to smile around each other. It had been several days since Jacopo had locked her in the shed, and her day-to-day life was only growing more arduous. She was under constant surveillance. The door was only unlocked to deliver her meals 3 times a day. And despite what an unfortunate situation their employer's wife found herself in, the maids chatted and gossiped and giggled freely. Not even in the shadows, out of her presence. The tactless young maidservants whispered directly to the white-haired girl when they brought her meals. "Look at you, madam, caged away like cattle." I could almost hear the sound of cracks forming in her heart. I imagined she had gotten to the point where she was having difficulty merely holding herself together. She had done nothing wrong, and yet she was forced to live this life of insults and mockery, of ridicule. The only reason her tenuously held together spirit did not completely shatter was because she still had her one and only ally. The maid Maria volunteered to attend to the white-haired girl. Maria took over the duty of delivering her 3 meals, meaning the other maids stopped coming by, and that relieved the white-haired girl's mental and emotional stress considerably. Maria became her sole conversation partner, her sole companion. She did not leave as soon as meals were finished, instead remaining in the shed with the white-haired girl for some time. "So, madam, how about a funny story? I flubbed up pretty hard the other day. You wanna hear about that?" So a couple of days back, I didn't get enough sleep the previous night, right? I'm helping out in the kitchen, half awake, plating up some food, and when I go to bring out to the guest, my heart about leaps out of my mouth. Guess why? What I thought was a plate was actually an ashtray. Man, I was sweating like a pig. The guest didn't seem to notice, but the other maids were pale as ghosts the entire time. Just about everyone had themselves a case of the vapors. I got quite the tongue lashing at cleanup. Pretty funny, huh? Did you? Sounds like it was a pretty bad day. Yeah. Hey, madam? I know there's not much point in telling you to cheer up right now, but I'm sure he won't keep you locked up forever. He's just a bit crabby for now. It'll be alright. Although, I guess this is a bit drastic for a temper tantrum. I'm sorry, madam. If only I'd pushed him a bit harder. If only I had a little more influence, he might not be in this situation. I thought I could be of some help, but I guess I'm not doing a great job of that. Of course not, Maria. You absolutely are. Just your being here takes a great weight off my shoulders. Still, though, I feel so worthless because I'm just a maid. I can't set you free. It's okay. I'm used to being imprisoned. What? What do you mean you're used to it? He never locked your door before. You're right. I'm not sure why, but I feel as though I've been in a similar predicament before. Lacking freedom and contact with others for a long stretch of time. I'm sure it's simply the exhaustion getting to you, madam. No one should ever be used to living like this. Yes, I agree. And I pray things go back to the way they were soon. Has getting mad at him never crossed your mind? Getting mad? Yeah, you know, When he yells, you yell back. Let him know he's in the wrong. Never considered doing that? I guess you're not one to get angry, Adam. Which would mean you're a better fit for the Holy Mother than me. No. I do sometimes want to get angry. To tell you the truth, it's almost always going through my mind how, if I did raise my voice, perhaps he would listen to what I have to say. But when I'm standing there in front of him, and he starts shouting at me, I freeze up and end up not saying a word. I'm just such a pitiful woman. Everything about me. When I need to speak up most, to stand up for myself, I cannot. Oh, don't look so down. That's not a bad thing. It's just got you in a little bit of a pickle right now. But I'll clear up everything with him, you hear me? In my mind, your modesty is a virtue. And the more I think about it, I can't even imagine you screaming. I like you better the way you are. Reserved. And ladylike. You can leave all the yelling to me. I'll do whatever I can to help you, madam. Were you able to clear up his confusion about the night when we were dancing? Oh, about that. Sorry, he just wouldn't hear it. I see. But I'm not throwing in the towel. I'll keep trying, as long as it takes. So... Say, Maria, could I, perhaps, ask another favor? Yeah, sure. Let me have it. I would like to write him a letter. A letter? To someone who lives in the same house? Yes. As things stand, I cannot simply go visit him on a whim. And I feel as though I could calmly express on paper things I am unable to say to him face to face. I suspect I might have more luck that way. I also believe he would be more likely to maintain his composure reading my thoughts in a letter than hearing them from my mouth. But with it, I can clear up all the confusion, and things can go back to the way they were. A letter? Interesting. I'll write the letter which I'd like you to deliver to him. May I ask that of you? Absolutely. Not a problem. Thank you, Maria. You are the only person I can count on. And I mean that. So, I'm going to stop us right here because I think we're about halfway. I think we're about halfway through the chapter, and so this is a good place to pinch us off, methinks. We've seen the situation at the very least. The white-haired girl is being abused, just in a different way in this world. Thanks to the folks who stuck around to listen to chapter 3 readings. While it is not as flying gore, everyone murdered, just as the white-haired girls. It's just kind of, no, it's not a good feeling. I think if you've ever been in a situation where you have more advantage than others, and that it renders your ability to complain about your situation one that people will not listen to. I think that's something I can identify with, and it's very, it's very difficult to navigate. It's really isolating. Pat's bun. I know that, can come off as a bit maybe not petty exactly, but just I think it's that you can acknowledge that you have that benefit, or you have that status on someone else, and this problem, it appears again and again in Fata Morgana, but seeing it here explored with the white-haired girl, like in door 1, the white-haired girl, like she was mistreated toward the end, and I guess also at the beginning of her life there, for the way that she looked, and for being from poverty. We have the white-haired girl in chapter 2 who ends up living with a psychopath, and then gets herself lynched, like not by him, but by the village who want to get their revenge upon him. Like she is used to punish him, and he's, well, we know what happened there. Gazes into the distance. What do you guys think so far of the chapter? Obviously, it's set in a more modern sort of era. Everything is being developed. Obviously, it's not so modern that they have a lot happening. I mean, they still have to sit for a long time to take a photograph. Heartbreaking. Wondering what Jacopo's problem is. We'll find out what Jacopo's problem is very soon. But I think I'm just gonna speak for all of us when I say that, like, it's fine to understand why, but what he's done is still not like a forgivable thing. We're going to understand what has led him to do these things, but you're still gonna think he's a jerk for it. So just throwing that out there. Don't take it out on your wife. I think that when the maid said that Jacopo loves the white-haired girl, but while some loves are like warm and kind, other loves become, I guess, damaging and caustic. I dare say there's some truth to it. Can cross the boundary between love and obsession. For some people, they might just be very similar things. Who knows? Nonetheless, we are going to catch up with the white-haired girl's domestic problem, soon. This was amazing. Does that bewilder you to think that that might be true? Because, yeah, no, I think it is. And I mean, even without the background knowledge that I have of Jacopo and the kind of life that he's led, he loves abusing her. Well, I can't say he loves it, but he abuses her. There's really no doubt about that. And she just takes it, you know? She, I guess, coming from her sort of background, and also with her Mika personality, she just, she can't do anything except beg for him to listen to her when she tries to explain that, Jacopo, I didn't mean to upset you, or Jacopo, I didn't do this to, I didn't do whatever it is that you're accusing me of. In fact, I don't even know what it is that you're accusing me of. Because in the eyes of the white-haired girl, she was like, I didn't do anything. What did I do wrong? And it's like, true. What did she do wrong? Aside from be his wife, and then make efforts to be his wife. Crazy, huh? Crazy marriage. I thought this chapter was really interesting as I was going through it. I don't like it as much as I like the other ones. And I think that, you know, the fact that it just revolves around Jacopo's domestic abuse of his wife is really Kumagur's making my Kumagur's face. But it's rough. I mean, like, we've us as viewers, us as readers, we've seen the kind of things that the white-haired girl has gone through. Whether it's having all of her hair cut off, like, by a maniacal young teenage girl, or Jacopo's still quite revolt. I think that you and Jacopo would not get along at all, Silent. As mentioned by the white-haired girl, he is not a gentleman, so... But I think he has his charm. I think he has his charm. Would he get along with anyone? Yes. Yes, he would. Surprisingly enough. He's, just... You know, if Tsundere was also a wife beater. Not the shirt. But... Well, it's true. He is a businessman. He lives and breathes his investments and what makes or doesn't make cash. I think the little flashback with the white-haired girl is very sweet. At the very least, I wanted to portray it as a sweet interaction. If I had read differently for him, I think it would have come off as much differently. But because I think that his sentiment toward her is genuine, even though he says some pretty crass things, I also believe that he has a warmer heart, especially towards her. So I try to read him in that way. Not that I can do manly man, but okay, the way that he looks in this chapter is so funny to me. But yeah, he doesn't really look like a good guy. And if the way he yells at the white-haired girl is any indication, you know, doesn't exactly act like a good guy either. But he has things going on, and we will find out what those things are. I hope that you will find them interesting. Hmm. No, it's trying to think of what I was thinking about at this point in time. I had my thoughts about what the situation was, and yeah, it's tough to see, but when things do come out, and we get to learn a bit more about all of the characters and what is actually happening between them. It's just a tale of woe, really. Jacopo might be a bad person, but I think that he is an interesting character. Like I do think of, you know, all of the crummy guys in this story. I think that they're still interesting characters. And his approach to his love for his wife, obviously it's puzzling. Like when we're reading this and we're viewing things from the white-haired girl's perspective, it's like we just want to do our best for a person that we care about, and yet he turns around and is exceedingly awful to her in response. And she just doesn't do anything about it aside from takes it and then goes back to her room to be miserable alone. And then like she has Maria around to have tea for 10 minutes. And then it's like, well, back to loneliness, back to lonely life. Poor thing. While we haven't seen her being threatened with a sword, or have all her hair cut off, or being brutalized by a bunch of angry villagers, I hope she can kill herself eventually. Stockholm Syndrome. Well, admittedly, it is like a political marriage, and so there is an aspect of she has to be here for duty. But I think that her feelings towards Jacopo are genuine as well. I think that they do, you know, they do have care. It is going terribly between them. The care is not going well at all. G'day. We're just about to wrap up. I'm just chatting a little bit about what we've seen so far in chapter 3, and I guess thoughts on Jacopo as a character, and then the white-haired girl third time round. Yeah, I guess it's frustrating, right? I just kind of wish that the white-haired girl could say something, that she could raise her voice and be like, no, please listen to me, and da-da-da-da actually happened, and I don't understand why you're being so mad about this. At least tell me why. You know? Neither of them explain themselves to each other. One, because Jacopo won't listen to the white-haired girl's explanations, but he too won't explain to her what it is that he's so mad about most of the time. There's just no communication. Those kind of stories always leave me frustrated to no end. But, I dare say, when one of the characters is the white-haired girl, I can understand why messages would be missed, because she's just a little bit... She's a bit flimsy. Could just blow her away. Okay. So I will save here. Caught in a quagmire. If white-haired girl has to suffer every chapter. I'm glad you guys have the desire to look after white-haired girl, because without spoiling anything that happens, we will see her again, but you may already understand what that might mean. Just like from the implications of the story so far, is that just the white-haired girl being around probably means that she's in for a rough time against everyone's will. But it's just like finding out, I suppose, what is going on. Hope you will stick around maybe for that. Nods. Excited to try and get through some more. For now though, I'll leave you all to your evenings and hopefully be back. You're very kind about my voice acting, but I can only do so much. I can only muster up so much manliness within myself. So kind. So kind. As long as you can tell the difference between who's speaking. Actually, you know, I will talk a little about the character portrayals when we're finished with this door. And then it'll make a lot more sense then. Very kind, very kind. See you all soon. Jacopo is voiced quite handsomely by his original voice actor. But so brutal. It's okay. He deserves it though. He deserves the roast. I'm sure you'll be roasting him when we finish this chapter too. So we'll get to it soon. Trying not to spoil it, but also you will be roasting him. You don't know why yet, but you will be. Wishing you a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining me today. See you soon. Bye bye.